Hey everybody, Anish Majumdar here, career coach to the fiercely ambitious, sharing with you today, real fast, real quick, my personal methodology on how to identify and overcome red flags in your career. This is must-watch territory, whether you're in the midst of a job search, whether you're trying to get promoted, whether you're trying to switch industries or make any kind of upward shift. You must know this, okay? I'm going to show you a way that is uncommonly effective, and will make sure that you give yourself every possible opportunity to make the most of your journey as opposed to being unfairly judged and eliminated because of something out of your control. Okay? So, what is a red flag? A red flag is simply anything in your history that could be counted as a negative against you and could conceivably be the deciding factor as to why you don't get a job. Right? Red flags can take many, many forms. They don't have to just be professional, right? They could be educational, training related, life circumstances related, right? But that's basically what it boils down to. Why do we want to take care of that? We want to take care of that because unlike the usual sort of narrative that's out there, there is, in all but the rarest circumstances, almost no such thing as a red flag that is a factual red flag. Most red flags are perception based. In other words, there was a perception on the part of a hiring manager or an employer that you were a risk, or that detail was a risk. That thing in your background or your history is a negative, not a minus. It was perceived that way. They ran with it, and that's why you were disqualified. Understand, that's very different from a factual thing, right? A factual thing is, I want to be a doctor, I don't have a medical degree. That is a factual, massive red flag, right? Most red flags, as it relates to a job search, are not that, right? So you need to know this because you can control, if not eliminate, the vast majority of quote-unquote red flags that you might be privy to, okay? So let's talk about that. And let's get into it. The very first thing, I want to share a couple of examples with you as well, but the most important thing I can share with you is this, okay? This is my personal way of identifying the severity of what I'm looking at here. There's 3 stages, okay? I evaluate all red flags kind of this way. The first level, okay? And these would all fall under the purview of things that you can eliminate from your brand, things that you can eliminate from your interview performance, and how you're negotiating opportunities. Any work gaps less than 6 months, okay? If you, for example, switch your resume to year only, that should take care of it, and LinkedIn, that should take care of it right off the bat. Anything less than that, you generally don't have to do anything with, okay? Just make sure that you're not going out of your way to talk about that, right? If they're assuming that there's a normal runoff there and things are moving forward, that's what it should be. Lack of consistent brand across online and offline. This is, again, a big red flag because I'm looking at you and I'm like, okay, this guy is CIO level territory. Literally, his LinkedIn profile is CIO level. His resume looks like it's an IT manager from 12 years ago. That's a problem. But that's something that you can take care of, right? You can look at it and say, if whatever your number one highest target is, whatever the strata is, that's your brand. If you're looking at CXO level roles, right, CEO, etc., if you're looking at this strata, there should be no one you're tracking below that level, right? And even if I was tracking VP directors because I thought I would be valid for those roles, or SVP, whatever, I still, for the purposes of my brand, go to the top. Okay, go to the top and build off of there. Use the headline intelligence, resume intelligence, all from the highest possible level, and make sure that it is consistent. Being consistent is way more important than being creative and jamming more details in. Okay, it's better if all of your brand, resume, LinkedIn, interview, everything coalesce around 3 to 5 core ideas. Okay, consulting-itis in your LinkedIn profile. Are you using the word consultant in your headline? Are you using sales-like terminology? Tripling sales in every business. How would you know that, right? That stuff is a big turnoff and can be counted against you just on its own, right? Functional resume format. That is when you don't have positions listed chronologically, but you're trying to hide something. At least that's what the perception is, right? You have an opening and then you cram all of the accomplishments from your entire career into one section, typically. Then you've got a small section for your roles. Don't do that. That just looks like BS, okay? It's better that you break it up chronologically, even if there are a few things to dive into, rather than you try to eliminate questioning. The point of a good resume, the point of a good brand is not to eliminate questions, guys. It's to elicit the right ones, right? The right follow-up and to intrigue. Right? Lack of matchup fit with the role being targeted. Senior level, one step down from what you're targeting. Okay. Level 2. These can be eliminated sometimes, or they might need to just be managed, right? Evidence of a career plateau, right? If I'm looking at someone's career and they've had basically the same job, there are things that I can do. In my resume, in my LinkedIn, I can make sure, for example, that for those roles, the title may be the same, but what I choose to put down there, if the outcomes, if the successes, if the accomplishments are growing in scale and intensity, if the teams are growing in intensity and the results are growing, then the job title itself is immediately secondary, if not tertiary, to that. So by structuring what I choose to do and making sure that for what I can control in my brand, in my resume, LinkedIn, etc., that I'm not checking out, I'm not treating these as interchangeable roles, but that there's a sense of progression and build in your resume, all important to safeguard that. Perception of being overqualified, right? That is, again, check your targets. Are you targeting an appropriately high enough level? Ageism concerns, longer work gaps, jack of all trades, right? You want to avoid fluff when it comes to your brand in terms of when you're looking at it, the first types of roles that should get the most priority are the ones that are directly relevant. The second ones are the ones that are obviously valuable and can show to a diverse talent stack. The third, least important, and can sometimes outright be eliminated, are ones that are totally unrelated, right? I might bring up my career as an actor when building rapport with someone, but it's not a key part of my brand. I'm a career coach. That's what I've been doing for the last 12 plus years, right? So that's what I want my focus to be on, right? Level 3, these can really only be controlled. Multi-year work gaps and sabbaticals, evidence of backwards progression in your career. That's when, like, I started at SVP, now I'm a senior manager. That's a big problem. Recent work history tainted by a high-profile flop, severe education and training deficits, no results. Now, if you don't fall into this, guess what? Automatically, you're a stage above, okay? In terms of the worst possible aspects and ramifications. Let's quickly look at 2 examples before we cut off here, but I want you to replay this, and I want you to really start understanding and vetting your history and your potential red flags in this way, okay? Let's say, excuse me. Let's say we look at this resume here, okay? This is a typical work gap. You're going to notice that the years stop at 2018. There's a gap between 2018 and present. You really don't want to leave that there. What this person is thinking that, hey, if I point to the fact that I have 20 plus years of success, they're going to ignore that. No one's going to ignore that. They're going to assume that you were just, sitting on your butt basically for 3 plus years. Don't do that, okay? And so the fix for something like that, or just one fix, is actively adding in a position like this, right? Independent consulting, ITSM and IT transformation. I wanted to make it specific because this is what this guy can specialize in. It's one of his zones of genius, right? And so by adding this in, not only do I account for that time, all the conversations I'm having, right, with key decision makers, with leaders, I'm using that, I'm folding that in. Just because you're advising someone, just because you're not getting paid as an employee does not mean you can't own the time that you spend building relationships, advising, moving things forward. So this is definitely a good practical fix to a time-related work gap, okay? Level up resume, right? So we can't see the forest for the trees here because it's being so overwhelmed with responsibilities. One of the easiest things that you can do to address that, okay, is to split it up. Make sure that the top deals with you're setting the stage for what is the outcome that you need to make happen, right? What is the big picture change that anyone can get behind, and ideally a little bit of your magic, right? I've got some tight keywords that I took from studying competitor LinkedIn profiles, right? That'll be a great validator. And then again, I've split it all up. And again, the focus is on outcomes, data, and alignment with this top, okay? This is really, really key if you're trying to level up positions. I hope this makes sense, guys. If you want to keep going deeper with me, please understand, okay? There's a lot that you can do when it comes to your brand. There's a lot that you can do when it comes to controlling your perception and your resume and your red flags. But that's not the end all and the be all. You've got to know how to build relationships. You've got to know how to scale using things like LinkedIn. You've got to know how to negotiate, and you've got to know how to stand up for yourself as a fully empowered human being and professional in your own right, not as a subservient job seeker. If you're taking this training, something tells me you desperately need help in that area. I want to give that to you for free. If you go over to helloanish.com, HELLOANISH.com, not only do I have additional free training, video training, etc., that you can go deeper with, but take a look at that top page. I've got an all new masterclass there called The New Rules of Executive Hiring. You can watch that immediately, and it will teach you over the course of that training session, me and my team, as the full meal deal, end to end, including how this works. Okay? Talk soon, guys.